Dear friends, colleagues, students, and esteemed guests, welcome to this observation of the 158th anniversary of the founding of our university, although it is yet again a relatively somber celebration. What a long, strange, difficult, but vital road this great university has had to navigate. 5 years ago, we held Founders Day during the Thawra, then during the pandemic and only months after the port explosion. Moreover, we've been living this past half-decade in a political vacuum and experiencing the continuing effects of one of the worst financial collapses in modern history. But none of that compares with the devastating war we have endured for the last 14 months. It has affected each and every one of us on a personal level and on an institutional level, with untold damage, both physical and psychological. That reckoning is some ways away. Tragedy and suffering are everywhere. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. There just is a great deal of work to do during the ceasefire to not only pick up the pieces, but to start to rebuild our society. This certainly does not mean and cannot mean that we are cowering under our desks. There's no chance we will put our lives on hold due to this situation. We never put our mission on hold. We all have a sacred duty to serve, lead, educate, innovate, and heal. That has not changed and will never change. Our faculty, staff, students, and alumni are all doing their part. Helping those in dire need through a wide range of humanitarian initiatives, tending to the sick and injured, both in our hospitals and out in the community, as well as documenting and bearing witness to the destruction being wrought. But we are also looking to the future, making plans for the rebuilding and the reconstruction efforts after this horrible conflict is over. AUB will be a major player in those efforts, offering our expertise and our resources to help Lebanon once again recover from the ravages of war. And a major aspect of what we need to rebuild is the battered state of primary and secondary education, not only in Lebanon, but the world over. We've received enormous support from our global community. People are donating their money, their time, and their know-how to help AUB survive and to help us to help others. I just returned from a trip around the world spanning Britain, Ireland, Australia, the United States, Britain again, and then back. Around the world in 40, not 80 days, and then some, with so many places in between. I had the good fortune to meet with university leaders, trustees, donors, alumni living far from their alma mater, and with numerous other institutional and personal friends of this university. Many of them see how vital AUB is, how important it is for any hope of a brighter future for Lebanon and the region. Many of those folks do indeed want to help, to join hands in making this a better, more inclusive, less polarized world. That starts at the level of our youth. Today marks our 5th Giving Day as well as Founders Day. How appropriate that is. We all need to be giving in this much more challenging environment. We would not be a university at all without the generosity of donors who heeded the call of our first president, Daniel Bliss, as he also crossed continents seeking partners who believed in our mission and our plan. Today, I call on all our friends around the globe to rise up and to proclaim that the people of Lebanon and the region deserve to live abundantly, that donating to AUB is one of the best ways to make that a reality, and that making that a reality is all of our responsibility. Earlier, I said that our mission remains sacrosanct: to serve, lead, educate, innovate, and heal, despite everything. Even with half of our student body displaced, along with numerous staff and faculty, we are going to conclude this semester no matter the difficulties, because the education we offer is too important to halt. Healing, that is obvious. Our AUB Medical Center, as well as our newly launched Kisarwan Medical Center, have been a rock throughout all Lebanese crises. and this one is no different. Even as we lose money treating scores of patients with no financial means and no insurance, and no medical records, I might add, we will adhere to our oath as physicians and nurses to treat, care for, and heal to the best of our considerable abilities. The AUBMC has treated all parties to wars and conflicts since 1917, when its rare combination of excellence, dedication, and neutrality in conflicts allowed Howard Bliss to convince the Ottoman authorities to reopen the campus. It has been true of our community in every conflict over the last 107 years since. Long may that spirit of AUB to serve, to heal, to innovate, and educate all endure. This also broadens out to areas of such urgent relevance as public health, nutrition, and food security. Health has multiple dimensions, and we seek to address it from all angles, including mental health. Through AUB Mediterraneo, ARIC, and AUB Global, formerly AUB Online, our reach is broader and deeper than ever. As for serving and leading, these speak to our Founders Day theme this year. We're committed to not only do what we do exceptionally well and have done for 158 years, namely educating and healing, we're also committed to making our world a better place. We cannot accept the status quo. We want to improve matters for all, to reduce global disparities in access to education and to care especially. Despite the daily challenges faced by our community during this war that began over a year ago, our researchers and faculty members are continuing to innovate and to produce knowledge. Our dedicated staff are continuing to advance important institutional initiatives like sustainability and improving processes. And our students are continuing to produce extraordinary work, to compete on the world stage, and to be recognized for their myriad accomplishments, including our team from OSB winning the Global Case Competition. The Founders Day Student Essay Contest this year relates to that striving for continual advancement. We asked students, how could AUB help in preserving, protecting, and improving pre-university education in Lebanon and the region? Specifically, what more should AUB be doing to enhance the quality of elementary and secondary education in a manner that serves its communities and helps uplift its people to form better, more inclusive societies? Soon I'll welcome to the stage our keynote speaker for this special day, an extraordinarily dedicated, accomplished, and brave woman leader and AUB trustee emerita, Carol Bellamy, who will speak on this topic from a global perspective, bringing to bear her considerable leadership experience and knowledge in the educational sphere. But first, we will hear from our students. I'd like to thank the selection committee members who gave their time to this important and meaningful tradition. The committee was chaired this year by Dr. Mahmoud Al-Hindi, and the other members were Lina Abu Habib, Dr. Ramzi Sabra, and Dr. Rima Karami Akkari. Thank you for your work. Please stand up and allow us to thank you. Now on to the winners. The first place essay will be read aloud, but the other winning essays are outstanding and are going to be available online, so I really encourage you to read those as well. Our third prize winner is Hariri School of Nursing sophomore Bisan Israfil, who wrote about AUB Beyond the Walls. In her essay, Bisan explores AUB's role and legacy in preparing generations to be responsible, innovative citizens that drive meaningful progress across Lebanon and the region. Bisan has experience in media relations, strategic communications, and environmental advocacy. She's pursued multiple leadership certificates. Her passion for service and bringing about a better future for Lebanon and beyond is evident in her call to found an education innovation lab at AUB. Bisan, congratulations. Winning second prize is Roy El-Badawi, a mechanical engineering senior at the Maroon Samaan Faculty of Engineering and Architecture, with minors in economics and business administration. Holder of the Lebanese International Finance Executive Scholarship, Roy has wasted no time in acquiring professional and business consulting experience, as well as engaging in numerous extracurricular activities at AUB and outside. In his essay, Roy takes us through a journey through education's chapters, focusing on AUB's resilience amidst crisis, its legacy of impactful and relevant education, and its persistence as a beacon of hope for generations to become. Roy, I'm surprised you didn't use your relative's anti-fragile analogy, but it's a wonderful essay. Mabruk. The winner of this year's Founders Essay competition is Sarah Kalloumi, a senior at the Faculty of Arts and Sciences with a double major in biology and business administration. Good, we need someone to straighten out the doctors. Sarah has managed to maintain her academic distinction while honing her leadership and professional skills, and even merging them with a commitment to volunteering. No wonder she's a recipient of the fully funded scholarship from the U.S. Middle East Partnership Initiative, MEPI, as all of you know it, Tomorrow's Leaders Program. Sarah has also received AUB's Murad La'al Literary Award and has been on the Dean's Honors List throughout the last 2 years. We'll now have the pleasure of hearing this year's winning essay entitled From Stairs to Stars, How AUB Amplifies the Voices of the Forgotten.
Thank you, President Houri. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Kalloumi, and I'll be reading my essay titled, From Stairs to Stars, How AUB Amplifies the Voices of the Forgotten. Isn't it strange how in a fleeting heartbeat, everything you believe about the world can vanish? 1 minute, you're standing on solid ground, confident in the path ahead. But the next minute, that ground collapses, carelessly throwing you into the abyss of the unknown. It was a heavy, still afternoon in the summer of 2013. The sun hung lazily over our farm, casting long shadows across the fields of Ma'alula. The air was warm, saturated with the sweet earthly scent of olive trees. Next to me, my father's hands moved skillfully through the soil. Each careful, deliberate movement unfolded a story of love and dedication to the land we called home. The tranquility of the moment seemed almost tangible, like a soft cloak draped over us. It was a perfect pose, a breath trapped in time, until it was ruthlessly broken. Without warning, a sharp, piercing sound ripped through the stillness. So close I could feel the air shift, the heat of it slicing the space between my father and me. A bullet. It missed us by mere inches. My father and I locked eyes. No words were needed. The message was clear. We couldn't stay. The war, which we had always felt looming in the distance, was now at our doorstep. An unwelcome intruder, breaking the stability we had always cherished. Ma'alula, a place where the ancient whispers of Aramaic still danced through the air, and where time moved with a measured grace, had always been our sanctuary. Yet, at that moment, we realized that even sanctuaries are not immune to the ravages of war. We fled to Lebanon with little more than memories and a fragile hope. Our refuge was a single room where my family and I shared the weight of loss that seemed to grow heavier each day. There was no space for silence, no room for the dreams I carried. So, I would sit on the narrow steps outside our door, my textbooks spread across my lap, and I'd study, hoping that somehow education would be my escape. Perched on those cold stairs, I dreamt of a different life, one in which the world beyond might open up for me. For a long time, it felt like that dream would remain just that, a dream. Life kept on tossing hurdles in my way, and the road ahead seemed unclear. But still, I studied, still, I hoped. Then, in May of my final high school year, as I was gathering my books for yet another day of studying on the stairs, a call came through that forever changed my life. Congratulations, you've been offered a full scholarship to the American University of Beirut through the MEPI Tomorrow's Leaders program. It seemed as if fate had been listening to my late-night prayers all those years and had finally chosen to respond. At that instant, I realized that all the countless hours I spent studying on the stairs, with the books barely fitting on my lap, had finally paid off and were now struggles of the past. Walking through the gates of AUB for the first time felt like entering a different world, one where dreams could take roots and flourish. My gaze fell upon the biblical inscription engraved at the entrance, that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Those words deeply resonated with me. They reflected the hope I've always carried within me, that life could be more than an act of survival. They encapsulated the very essence of what education should be, not just a path to personal success, but also an opportunity to give back and create a more just and empathetic world. At AUB, I found more than an education. I found a home. The vibrant community, the spirited debates in classrooms, the late-night study sessions in Jafet, all felt like a rebirth. No longer was I that displaced soul from Syria, no longer just the child who clung tightly to survival. I was a student, a thinker, a person with a voice and a purpose. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged. If that version of myself, sitting on the cold concrete stairs, could see me now, she wouldn't just be proud. She would be in awe. She would marvel at the university that embraced me, a young woman from Malula who carried the weight of her heritage, struggles, and ambitions. She would smile at the sight of me walking confidently through AUB's historic campus, knowing that this place, this sanctuary of learning, had gifted me wings she had only dared to imagine. But AUB's story isn't just mine. It is the story of every student who has stepped through its gates, looking for more than just an education, looking for a foundation on which to build a better life. It is the story of those who have come from war, displacement, and hardship, to find not just a place of learning, but also one of belonging. Yet, AUB's responsibilities stretch far beyond its walls. As an institution so deeply embedded in the region's heart, AUB has both the power and the duty to extend its beacon of hope beyond just me or those fortunate enough to walk its campus. Its impact should reach across Lebanon and beyond, especially to children in underserved schools, eager but so often overlooked. Somewhere out there, in forgotten villages and neglected communities, there is a young dreamer just like I once was, waiting for the chance to break free from the confines of their circumstances. For them, AUB is more than just a university. It's a dream. And it's a dream that could be within reach if AUB's influence in elementary and secondary education deepens. This vision of shaping pre-university education isn't just an aspiration. It's something AUB has already begun working toward, with initiatives like Tamam, which empowers schools through collaborative leadership, and SMEC, a hub dedicated to advancing science and math education. AUB has ignited sparks of change across Lebanon and beyond. And while these programs are transforming classrooms and empowering educators, there is still so much that can be done to better serve countless others. To fully embrace its mission of uplifting society through education, AUB could create mentorship programs that pair university students with pre-university learnings, especially in underserved areas. These wouldn't just be programs, they would be lifelines. An AUB student reaching out to a young person who shares their challenges and dreams could offer a glimmer of hope, showing them that their background doesn't limit their future. The power of seeing someone who has walked a similar path and achieved the seemingly impossible, this is what sustains hope in the hearts of those who might otherwise be forgotten. What if AUB could establish a scholarship fund specifically for pre-university students from marginalized groups? A fund that would acknowledge their potential even before they set foot on campus. These scholarships wouldn't have to be grand. Even modest awards could be life-changing. They would be a symbol, a gesture that says, "We see you, you belong here, your story matters." For a student facing the daily hardships of poverty or displacement, this message would be revolutionary. Beyond mentorship programs and scholarships, AUB's impact could deepen even further by empowering those at the very heart of early education, elementary teachers. By expanding its teacher training programs, AUB could invite elementary educators to skill-building seminars on campus, offering them the tools and insights to uplift their students' journeys from the very beginning. Imagine if teachers from underserved regions could return to their classrooms, equipped not just with techniques, but with renewed passion and confidence. This would be an investment in the earliest foundations of young minds, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond one classroom, one school, or one community. In this way, AUB could become an unseen guide in every classroom, a gentle influence in every young mind that is beginning to dream. Yet, AUB's vision to nurture ethical leaders and build resilient, inclusive societies isn't meant to be confined by borders. Somewhere in Syria, Palestine, Iraq, and beyond are young hearts and minds with untapped dreams, waiting, hoping, and needing someone to believe in them. In places where quality education is often an inaccessible luxury, an AUB-backed initiative could be a lifeline of hope. Through collaborative workshops, online mentorships, and cross-border initiatives, AUB could bring knowledge and support to teachers and students alike, creating an educational bridge to communities that are often forgotten. Looking back on the hours I spent studying on the cold stairs outside our room, clutching my books and wishing for a life beyond survival, I realized that I'm here not only because I dared to hope, but because someone at AUB dared to believe in me. It is this belief, this faith in every young person's potential that I now must carry forward. Today, as Lebanon stands under the heavy shadow of war, AUB's light must remain undimmed, for it is in these dark times of suffering where so many are caught between despair and resilience that AUB's role is most profound. It no longer serves as just a place of learning, but a refuge where wounded hearts and battered dreams find the strength to heal, rebuild, and rise again. As AUB celebrates its Founders' Day, we're reminded that this institution, steadfast for over 158 years, was born not just to educate, but to transform lives, break down barriers, and give hope to those who need it most. It was meant to be a promise to the region, a promise that education can be the foundation of a just and inclusive society, where no dream is unreachable and no barrier insurmountable. Let this Founders' Day be a renewal of that promise. Let it be a pledge that AUB will continue to reach the farthest hearts, touch the most hidden dreams, and lift every young soul who yearns to break free from struggle. With every student it empowers, AUB carries forward the enduring flame of hope, a legacy that will illuminate lives for generations to come and create a more inclusive future where every voice is heard. Long after today, may AUB remain a guiding star in a region too often shrouded in hardship. Its light piercing through shadows to reach every young heart that dares to dream, offering not only the chance, but also the courage to soar. May AUB forever stand as a reminder that as long as there are hearts brave enough to hope, there will always be a place where they are destined to rise. Thank you very much.
Give you this. I could ask the other winners to please come up on stage. Take a group picture. Congratulations to all the winners. All of you. Please give another round of applause for our wonderful winners. They've so earned it. We will now have a musical interlude, the prayer performed by Najla Sadi, who's an engineering student and a frequent star performer at AUB in so many ways. Today's keynote speaker, AUB trustee emerita Carol Bellamy, a visionary leader whose career stands as a masterclass in service, innovation, and transformative leadership. Over decades, Carol has built a legacy that spans public service and global advocacy, inspiring generations to think boldly and to act decisively in pursuit of true equity and progress. Carol's career began in the private sector, where she honed her expertise in law and investment banking. Then she went on to dedicate 13 years to public office in her city, serving as a New York State senator and making history as the first woman elected in New York City as president of the New York City Council. Her leadership extended to the global stage as director of the United States Peace Corps and as chair of the Global Community Engagement and Resilience Fund. Trustee Bellamy's dedication to education is the cornerstone of a remarkable career. As executive director for UNICEF for 2 terms, she championed the fundamental rights of children, advocating for their education, health, and protection, particularly those in underserved communities. As chair of the Global Partnership for Education, she mobilized global resources to bridge gaps in access to quality learning in developing countries worldwide. She's also served as chair of the International Baccalaureate Board, where she advanced global educational standards to prepare students for an interconnected world. In the academic world, she served as a fellow of the Harvard Institute of Politics. Her achievements have earned her international acclaim, including the highest awards of the Légion d'honneur, France's highest order of merit, and the Order of the Rising Sun, Japan's most distinguished honor. At the American University of Beirut, we have been enormously fortunate to benefit from Carol's sharp intellect, wit, extensive experience, and often decisive wisdom when she served as a trustee from 2007 to 2017. Ever since, she has been a fully engaged trustee emerita, often helping guide us in the challenges of the last 7 years. Her contributions significantly advance the university's mission of service, excellence, and global impact. Of our fearless trustee emerita, it can genuinely be said, as Marie Curie memorably wrote, "Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less." Today, as we celebrate Founders Day at a time of immense difficulty and uncertainty, we're fortunate to hear from Carol Bellamy, whose keynote address, Time to Rethink, Reboot, and Re-Energize Education, provides us with an invaluable perspective at a critical time. Please join me in welcoming Trustee Emerita Carol Bellamy.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, distinguished faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen, I thought I just would have to follow your fine president in speaking today, and I knew I couldn't match him with new Bob Dylan quotes. But I now realize I have to follow the students, and I am really under a lot of pressure. I might have rethought the saying I would come do this if I knew what wonderful students you have. But I am truly honored to be asked to speak here today. In a world and in a region that is increasingly polarized, increasingly dangerous, and where rational debate is fast becoming a lost art, AUB is a beacon of hope. It demonstrates that the way the world is right now is not the way it has to be. And AUB shows us that it is still possible to bring young people of many different faiths, and perhaps even of none, together to work and study, and then send them out into the world with a commitment to creative and critical thinking, lifelong learning, personal integrity, civic responsibility, and leadership. Such beacons, as I'm sure you'll agree with me, are needed as never before. Because, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the position I take today, education is failing the world. From preschooling to postgraduate levels, too much of the education offered to children and young people around the world is not fit for purpose. And in my view, that purpose is to produce the citizens that we so desperately need, the problem solvers, the creative and ambitious thinkers, the world changers. So I am delighted then to be asked to share my thoughts on the theme of this year's Founders' Day. If nations are to have a peaceful, sustainable future, we must get education back on the global to-do list. And we must make sure it is not only high on that list, but connected to everything else on that. Because our hopes for a halfway decent world, let alone a better one, depend on the availability of a great education for all. And because it is there, in the kindergarten, the classroom, the lecture hall, that we create the well-rounded, well-informed, and resilient global citizens that we need today and in the future to secure the future of entire nations. You know, anyone who makes a speech has to decide whether to talk about the bad news or the good news. More often than not, the solution is to rely on a mixture of the two. Today, in my view, is a little different. I'm afraid to say that there is far too much bad news, with very little good news to add to the mix. And I'm angry. I'm angry that the bad continues to far outweigh the good, and that we are simply not doing enough to make there more good news. As I see it, there are two major challenges, neither of them new. One, access to education, and two, the quality of education on offer. How can we create the global citizens we need when so many of the world's children and young people still miss out on education? And when those in school often leave without the skills that they need to function in our rapidly changing world. Just one glance at the bad news one glance at the statistics confirms the bad news. At the global level, about 1 in 6 adults on our planet cannot read or write. And twice as many women as men are illiterate. 600 million women versus 300 million men. But male or female, 99% of those who lack these vital skills are in the world's developing countries. About 115 million children ages 6 to 11, that's 1 in every 5, are not in school. And of those who are in the classroom, 1 in every 4 drops out before they have had 5 years of basic education. This means that they are likely to spend the rest of their lives non-numerate and functionally illiterate. This region in particular has endured the unprecedented disruption and near collapse of education in recent decades. Like children across the world, the children of the Middle East lost many months of education triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. But as I'm sure many of you know, if not all, the Middle East faces even more extreme challenges that are piling up layer upon layer to deprive children and young people of the education that is their fundamental right. Above all, violence. As a result, classrooms that should be full of children learning new skills are full of families with nowhere else to go. Schools that should be places of safety and shelter have been destroyed. Their actual function, their actual purpose has all been forgotten. What kind of citizens can be created? What kind of education is even possible in what can only be described as hell? Recent years have seen the uprooting of millions of people, both within and across the region's borders. Lebanon was already hosting the largest number of refugees in the world on a per capita basis. And now with the latest crisis, it seems that almost everyone is on the move, trying to find a safe haven. I am acutely aware of the profound impact that this is having on the life and work of everyone at AUB, as I might say are my colleagues on the AUB board, and it's nice to see several of them here. Given the impact on your students, half of your students displaced, and almost 1/3 of your faculty and staff either displaced or caring for displaced family members in their own homes. My admiration, our admiration for the persistence and the commitment of AUB faculty, staff, and students in the face of these challenges grows deeper every day. The many other challenges to education here in Lebanon include, and again, as you know, economic collapse, the Beirut port explosion of 2020, the falling value of the Lebanese lira, falling salaries, and rising prices, just to name a few. Unfortunately, all of these are fueling a brain drain of Lebanon's brightest and best, including its teachers. These challenges are working in combination to undermine Lebanon's once proud reputation for excellence in education, and may be widening the gap between better-off Lebanese children who go to private school, refugee children who may be lucky enough to have support from the UN and other agencies, and ordinary Lebanese children who may have no such education safety nets. The physical destruction of schools, the loss of schools as they are repurposed to provide shelter, the collapse of state-funded education in the face of one crisis after another, all of these demand an urgent and unprecedented response. Yet as bad as they are only part of the picture. Even in relatively good times, there is a global learning crisis. And even in relatively wealthy countries, many education systems are failing to equip students with the skills they need, from green and digital knowledge to conflict resolution and critical thinking, so that the students can meet today's labor markets. Parents here in Lebanon and across the Middle East, for example, are losing faith in their state-funded education systems. Another signal that education is not delivering. But it's a pattern that is being seen worldwide as parents stop waiting for state-funded education to improve. Who can blame parents for wanting a good quality education for their children right now? Education cannot wait. Education can't wait for wars to be over. Education can't wait for governments to function. Education can't wait for budgets to grow. Education can't wait for the so-called right time. Because the right time will never come until we have a good quality education for all. Education is just simply too important to leave to the politicians. And yet, we see it being weaponized for political ends, a battleground in the cultural wars that are raging around the world, here and certainly in my own country. What I find so frustrating is that, as I mentioned, the challenges to education are not exactly breaking news. They've been with us for decades. Equally, the solutions are well known and proven. So why aren't we doing it? Because it is simply not seen as a global crisis. We cannot make progress until we treat this as a crisis like climate change, like conflict, like the COVID-19 pandemic, and more. Because without a good education, and a good education for all, nothing will ever really change. So let's step away from the bad news for a moment, and let's look at this from a somewhat more positive angle. What do we get for prioritizing a quality education for every child? Economist Amartya Sen said that it equips us with the essential and individual power to reflect, to make choices, and steer towards a better life. Education builds a sense of global citizenship, and that is crucial for global problem solving. The ideal classroom is more than a collection of desks and books. It is also a place where we develop our sense of shared values and learn to navigate early conflicts. It is where we hone our skills in critical thinking, a skill that becomes more important with each passing day in an era of misinformation, political populism, and the lazy, easy answers that are offered as solutions to complicated, nuanced issues. And as we've long known, education is one of the most powerful ways to reduce poverty and inequality and build the foundations for sustainable and equitable growth. The education of girls, in particular, has been proven time and again to generate one of the highest economic returns. A quality education builds competencies for the future, for a new, clean, sustainable, and equitable world economy. And to put it simply, it will be easier to tackle other pressing global challenges if everyone on this planet was well educated. So, where do we go from here? Earlier this year, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres set out 4 priorities for education, and I agree with each and every one of them. First, in no particular order, close the access gap. Wherever students are, and no matter who they are, they all deserve and all have an absolute right to a good quality education. Whatever is happening around them, they have the right to a good quality education. No matter who is in power, they have the right, you guessed it, to a good quality education. Rights are not flexible or optional. They do not change with circumstances, location, gender, religion, or class. Second, start a revolution within education systems. That means rethinking what students are learning with a strong focus on quality, on critical thinking and problem-solving skills, as well as skills in green and digital technology. It is time to shift the focus from testing and rote learning to practical 21st century, real-life skills. It is also time to create new structures and approaches to support lifelong learning so that those who have missed out on have every chance to catch up, and so that learning never has to end. Let me add here that this revolution must strengthen education at every level, from preschooling to primary, and from secondary to higher education. Because access, literacy, and numeracy, often set forth as the global goals, should be the floor, not the ceiling. It should be the starting point for our missions, not the end goal. Third, more respect and support for the women and men on the front lines of education, our teachers. Doesn't matter who you are, rich or poor, you need a great teacher. Yet there are just too few of them. In fact, it's noted that we need 44 million more of them worldwide. Millions of teachers lack the support, tools, and training they need. Just think how important teachers have been in our own lives, and I know there are a lot of teachers in this room. But even the teachers in this room can probably name one who has shaped them, inspired them. Picture that person for a second. Who outside your own family has had such an influence on you? Don't they deserve an incredible shift in the way we treat them, from their salaries to their training and their working conditions? And fourth, and this is not all inclusive, but close the financing gap. Whatever the final price tag, it pales into insignificance when set against the insane costs of failure. Leaders must meet and, where possible, exceed the international benchmark of dedicating 15% of their domestic revenue and 4% of their GDP for education. So how do we get there? To put it simply, in my view, solidarity. Solidarity that spans every level, from the global to the local. Solidarity across communities, spanning teachers, parents, and students. The very notion of solidarity is something that has to be rebuilt in a world that is now unfortunately characterized and even driven by division. This is an increasingly uphill battle, but a battle that simply must be won. I'd like to end by sharing something with you, something that sums up why this battle must be won. These words appeared on a poster at the entrance to a university in South Africa, and I believe they are included in your program. You may have read them. Some of you may not. But even if you've read them, I believe they bear repeating. They read as follows: destroying any nation does not require the use of atomic bombs or the use of long-range missiles. It only requires lowering the quality of education and allowing cheating in examinations by the students. The poster then sets out dire consequences, and again I quote: patients die at the hand of such doctors. Buildings collapse at the hands of such engineers. Money is lost at the hands of such economists and accountants. Humanity dies at the hands of such religious scholars. Justice is lost at the hands of such judges. It concludes by simply saying, the collapse of education is the collapse of a nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carol, for that extremely poignant and timely keynote. And we agree with you. We are watching nations die with the collapse of education. May I ask everyone to please rise for the rendering of the alma mater.